Hello everyone, my name is Conrad on behalf of CameraStuff. Thank you for joining yet another episode in a Limelight, where tonight we're doing something a little bit different. So we have a bit of a group chat going on. So we are going to be joined by a handful of very talented photographers, specifically tonight's topic, and we're also going to keep things as topical as possible as well, would be that of portrait photography. So we're going to be joined by Siobhan, we're also joined by Laetitia and Les-Lee. So I'll introduce them one by one in a moment. But I just want to get the crux, the core of tonight's chat just out of the way. So it's going to be less about gear and flashes and lenses and whatnot. I'm certain there are a gazillion videos out there that will teach you how to set up a softbox. Tonight's chat is all going to be about establishing a relationship with your client, getting natural poses, and also getting to the essence of the person, because I think at its core, that is what portrait photography is about. It is about capturing the essence of a person. It is something Annie Leibovitz said about portrait photography. You need to fall in love with your client. Now, that's all fancy said and done in a theoretical sense, but practically speaking, how do we go about creating good portraits? So I just want to quickly brag about our guests tonight. So I'm just going to show us, everyone out there, some photos. So this is from Laetitia Booysen. So I snuck in a couple of photos. This is what she is capable of, and we'll introduce her in a wee bit. Also, Les-Lee, very talented photographer. This is some of her photos. Siobhan as well. Just to give a bit of an insight as to what our guests are capable of. And as you can see, incredibly talented photographers. And I was told to squeeze in my own photos as well, reluctantly, but here we go. This is what I can do. So I'll try my best to provide some insight from my point of view as well. But tonight is all about our guests. So let's pull that to the side. So I think let's pull them in one by one, shall we? So we have Siobhan. Let me just fix the camera angles. We have Laetitia. Hello, Laetitia.
Hi, everyone.
And Les-Lee. Hello, how is everyone?
Very well. Thank you for having us.
Very
well.
All right, so I did that on purpose, just to kind of keep things organized tonight. I will try and address you personally. So if I want to ask you a question, I will say, hey, Laetitia, blah, 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 blah. Hey, Siobhan, blah, 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 blah. Because as just experimented with, when I ask a question, everybody jumps in at the same time. So just to try and avoid that, I will ask people one by one questions. If you do want to jump in, by all means as well. But I think to keep things formal, we can go around clockwise. So it's me, Laetitia, Les-Lee, Siobhan. So that was just by chance, but that's how we're going to try and keep things organized tonight. But I think if it is chaotic, that's fantastic as well. The more chaotic, the better as well. So, Laetitia, how are you doing? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of photography? Just a couple of sentences, how you got started.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Conrad, thank you so much for having me on this wonderful panel. I'm Laetitia Booysen. I've been a portrait photographer for just over a decade. And my heart is really women's portraiture. It's really where my focus is. My mission statement is to photograph beauty on a soul level, and it's I really enjoy showing women, really helping them rediscover their true selves again. So
I
yeah.
think that is exactly what we want to talk about tonight. So, wonderful introduction. Les-Lee, how are you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good, thank you. Okay, so yeah, I'm Les-Lee Lesch, and I started, as everyone knows, I started about, I think I'm doing 5 years now. But yeah, I'm a studio photographer. I do a little bit of fashion on the side as well as portraits. So yeah, it's definitely something I love doing is shooting portraits. So yeah, it's like Laetitia said, it's like how can I say, to capture people. It's, I think the portrait side is kind of like the greatest thing to capture, because you capture someone, okay, how can I say, someone's soul, and in a way of you can like capture a story behind the portrait. So I think that is like something very special. Yeah.
Oh, this is wonderful. We're exactly on the same page. So this is going to be a wonderful chat. Siobhan, yeah, give us a bit of an intro.
Okay, so I'm Siobhan. Many of you will know me as Brazier Photography. I am a studio photographer based in the Vaal. And yeah, I shoot a bit of weddings on the side as well as events, but mostly in studio, shooting everyone. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we kind of touched on these things little bit by little bit, but it's going to be my first question. What would you define as a great portrait? Laetitia, let's start with you.
A great portrait.
Mhm.
Well, I think, obviously there's the technical side to understanding, lighting and angles and posing and all of those things, right? But if you know all those things and you put that triangle together, but there's a disconnect with the subject, then it's just going to be a picture.
Mm,
A really beautifully technically correct picture. So then, that's why like a great portrait is very difficult to define. So I think when you bring in connection and you bring in authenticity and you bring in really being able to capture the person, not just, ticking off all of the boxes, then you create a great portrait. And I can't really say that you can say this is the greatest portrait ever. So I think it's just like five different portraits can all be great and just be completely different. So I think
Yeah,
it's really just getting those important points together, but making sure the connection is there. So yeah.
100%. Well, I agree completely with that. Les-Lee, follow up. How would you define a good portrait?
Well, I always say a good portrait is like it has to tell a story because if someone looks at the picture, they should kind of have their own story in their minds. Like in a way, it should tell a story for everyone. So I think it is in a way of it has to define like a portrait in a good way of everyone has to have their own story. So yeah, like Letitia said, it's not just about it's not just about the subject. You have to be, not that I say after the lighting have to be like perfect. You have to understand the basic setup of shooting a portrait. So yeah, I don't know what to add more to that, but yeah.
Oh, wonderful answer. Thank you. Siobhan, leading into you.
Well, I 100% agree with both of you. Definitely, as you say, with Letitia, with the triangle, with the lighting and the subject. And for me, I think definitely emotion comes into play as well as the eyes. And yeah, I think lighting definitely makes a big difference. So think I think it's obviously subjective though. Everyone
Yeah.
has their own idea of a perfect portrait. So at the end of the day, it does come down to you and your preference.
All right. So I think once everybody had their turn, you're more than welcome to jump on and add with something. I'm going to have my viewpoints on every question as well, and I don't mind in being interrupted. So if you find something interesting to say, just jump in and shout by all means. So in terms of a good portrait, it's very tricky because you have many subcategories of portraits. So you have your fashion, conceptual, lifestyle, you have commercial, corporate, beauty, glamour, etc. So when it comes to fashion, as an example, the fashion aspect of it may take over from the personality. But I think it is always paramount: personality, character, even beyond the physical likeness of a person. Like it has to go skin deep, deeper than
Yeah.
skin itself,
Yeah.
where you need to capture the person's essence. I know we keep on using that word, the essence, but it's all about capturing the person's nuances, their characteristics, their mannerisms. And it's all about the underlining who this person is. So it's about introducing somebody to an audience out there and especially if it's friends and family, they should automatically click, oh, that's Laetitia, that's Les-Lee, etc. When they look at the photo, they should see the character. Even when it comes to corporate and products, etc., even the personality has to flow into the product and vice versa as well. So it's very important to pick your right person as well, but it's all about going beyond skin deep. So it's something that annoys me a little bit. I don't know if you want to add on something to this, but portraits is not always about beauty or flattering a person. Like sometimes unique facial features is your character. Wearing glasses, if you wear glasses the whole time, don't take it off. So going beyond skin deep and capturing the person's essence. I think there's a bit too much focus on what is flattering, what is beautiful. I think this conversation needs to change around photography.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to jump in with that. Okay, so if nobody jumping in, that means I did a good explanation.
I'll jump in very quickly.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually quite a movement now around raw photography. Having women just come as they are, no makeup, no anything, and obviously it's a different, I think it's a different side. Obviously there's lots of, I'm not speaking women because I work mostly with women, but there's a different side to it where there are women that really would never do that. They would never want to be photographed raw, with the messy on and the how you look when you're at home kind of thing. But it's absolutely true what you say, Conrad. You shouldn't be someone else.
Yes.
Right? And that's why I always kind of reiterate, this is not seeing yourself in a new light for me when I'm, creating these sessions. It's about seeing yourself in your true light.
Yes.
So it's not, that's why I don't like using the word a makeover session, because I don't want you to not look like you. And yes, there is makeup and all those things to make, women feel beautiful if they're glammed up. Not everybody, it is subjective as well. But I think it comes down to understanding the person that you're photographing. And this is kind of where you kind of put a little bit of time into it, like really sincerely get to know the person that you're photographing. And I mean, one of my favorite things, I photographed this one lady, and she said when her best friend looked at the picture, it was as if she could hear her laughing.
Wonderful. I like that.
So that is kind of, if you get to know the person who they are, and you focus on capturing that. And like you said, your family and your friends, they must recognize you in that picture. It doesn't matter how glammed up you are. They must still recognize you in that picture. So, that's kind of my approach to that.
Now, portraiture from a classical standpoint has always been about a formal setting, a scheduled event, where it's you in person and they want a headshot. So you can cheat a little bit in terms of quote unquote flattering a person by using a variety of different lighting or camera techniques. But the point of a portrait is not to make, for example, make me look like Henry Cavill or a Jason Momoa. So the person needs to be there. And it's all about telling the audience who this person is. So also from a classical standpoint, the headshot was all about your portfolio, your CV, auditioning for a new movie, whatever it may be. And I think it's all about maintaining that in modern contemporary portraiture as well. So not to make someone look completely different. Sorry, I have a cat here next to me. Now, so if you hear cat noises and dog noises, gargoyle noises, that's just the pugs and the cats running circles around me. But yeah, so in terms of editing, like where do you draw the line? Is there something that you want to see less of in the industry? Because I have a lot to say about this topic. Laetitia, you had a bit of an add-on to the previous one. So can we start with Les-Lee here?
Okay, so yeah, I think if I would talk about editing, because I know a lot of people have their own opinion on editing, and when it comes to a point where they're like, no, it's not gonna work, because if I take my mom for instance, she's like an old school photographer, so every time I edit a picture, she's like, no, that is too much. Like she feels like the raw in the picture should still be there. But then
Mm.
again, if you get in today's life with all the technology and everything going up, like when you take, for example, magazines, you have to like they expect certain things from you. I don't know if some of you like know about that, but they expect certain things from you from when it comes to editing, and they expect you to give those high editing tones and stuff. So I feel like I will go with myself. When it comes to editing, I love to edit my pictures, but like I told Conrad the other day with my profile picture, I told him the other day, I think I don't like the picture because I feel like it's too much. So, so it's kind of you get to a
Mhm.
point when it comes to editing, you're like, no, it's not gonna work, and that is too much on a picture. And I think you don't want a person, like Laetitia said, you don't want a person to look completely different from what
Mm.
the original photo looks like. So yeah, I think when it comes to editing, you don't want to edit too much on your pictures, um,
Mm.
so that the person don't look the same as they used to look. So yeah, so it's kind of
100%. Yeah.
just, yeah, it's you don't want to edit your pictures too much. So yeah, that's just what I
Yeah, I
think.
think having a person to kind of bounce your images off, just to kind of pull the reins in when necessary, because the more
Yeah.
time you spend in front of a computer, the more you edit. And before you know it, the person has to porcelain skin, as Rita Rogers here pointed out, porcelain skin must fall. So the longer you spend time in front of the computer, yeah, the more and more filters
Yeah.
and things that you do add. So
And
it's, yeah, it's
it
incredibly
also
helpful to
depends
bounce
on
off
the
a person.
genre, I think, because like Les-Lee does a lot of fashion, and obviously in fashion photography, it has to be flawless, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
So the editing there and the retouching is really high level.
Mm.
Whereas when you're photographing everyday people, you don't need to
mm.
go that extreme, because
Yeah.
it's not required that you go there.
Mm.
So
100%. Siobhan, what do you have to say about this topic?
So I love editing. I'm not gonna lie. I think when I first started learning how to retouch, I went way overboard. And the longer I've been doing it, the more natural I go with it. So everything is still retouched, but you can still see the wrinkles are here. The person still looks the same. And I think it just comes with time and obviously referencing to other people's images. As they said, porcelain skin must fall. Depending on your genre, though, as Les-Lee does the fashion, it needs to be usually quite clean cut. And yeah, I think again, editing is subjective. Everything, I guess, in photography is subjective at the end of the day. So, but I agree with what Hank said. He said shoot correctly and spend less time editing. So I think it's what we're all trying to strive for at the end of the day.
Eventually, it becomes a point where. Go
sorry.
ahead, Laetitia.
No, I was just gonna say, so I shoot a lot of mature women, and so I also like Siobhan. I love retouching because, yeah, you want the picture to look beautiful and obviously add your signature kind of style to it. But when it comes, especially like to mature skin editing, I soften a lot just in terms of not making anything look excessive.
Yeah.
But I don't like wrinkles and the laugh. Even when I do edit my own images, I don't take my laugh lines away. It's not authentic. And I mean, one of the first portrait on the left that you showed when you introduced me, Conrad, that's my 72-year-old mother, and I really wanted to capture her. So you'll see she is a mature woman. If I did like a high-end retouch and porcelain skin, it wouldn't have looked right. So I love retouching, but I do, like Siobhan said, I like to keep kind of having that. It must look natural as well. And I always tell my clients, if there's something you don't like in an image, like a little fold or a little bump, tell me and I'll fix it. Because I mean, for me, a little nip tuck is not going to hurt anyone as long as it looks natural, you know. So
Absolutely.
Now, this person still needs to be recognizable,
yeah.
and there's a lot to said about the porcelain skin effect as well. So even when it comes to high-end retouching, there is the trend of keeping things as natural as possible, which is more difficult to do in editing. Like you have those one-click filters and portrait fixes, but are available out there, but the results are typically quite horrendous. It's like way too 1990s, 2000s magazine quality where everybody looked hectically airbrushed.
Yeah.
So I do like editing myself as well, but as I said, ironically, when it comes to natural editing, it does take a long while to do that. But yeah, so it's not too bad mouth editing whatsoever. Just about knowing when to stop, when to pull back, when to pull the reins in. It is subjective at the end of the day, and it's also very helpful just to bounce your images off other people as well, just to get their insight and their opinions, just to make sure that you're not overcooking things. All right, so we talked about the essence of a person. So, how do you establish a connection with your client model to bring out their genuine expressions and emotions? So, Laetitia, we can start with you.
Okay, so when my client arrives, we more often than not greet each other with a hug because it will not be our first interaction, and that is kind of where it has to start before the shoot. I'm not saying that you cannot form a connection with a client on the day, but I'm just saying, like, when it comes to really understanding the person in front of you, it helps to know who they are just a little bit. So, for me, the first point is always a call. There's always a phone call. I mean, I do a little bit of personal branding and corporate headshots as well, and I apply the same principle. I mean, if the person you're putting out there professionally, it has to be authentic as well. And so I always insist on a call because I need to know the person a little bit. So with my women's glamour portraits, yes, it's a conversation, and I always start with, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? And that is kind of what opens up the conversation, and they start sharing with me what is their why, and it's, for me personally, it's really just about showing up sincerely and authentically and really being present for the person that you're speaking to. It's really about not seeing a client as a walking wallet. It's really about really wanting to serve this person, right? So really, I'm just listening to their story, and then we usually have a styling consultation before they shoot as well. That is usually in person. So they come to my studio and we design their shoot before the time. We talk about colors and outfits and all of that. So that's their first face to face with me, is before they shoot. And so we also kind of spend some time connecting there. And then, yeah, on the day of the shoot, they're usually already very comfortable. Um, and then in studio, I always tell them it's going to take a minute. You're going to ease into it. And then there's always that moment where I can see that they are now there. They have eased into it and they are owning it. And that's like the moment for me. So it takes a bit of investment for me personally. That's just my process. Like I said, I'm not saying that you cannot connect with a client on the day you meet them. But yeah, for me, it goes a little bit deeper.
All right, Leslie, do you want to follow on?
Okay, so yeah, Laetitia has a more professional way of doing things, but mine is just, yeah, mine is a little bit different. Normally, I just talk, like I would say, on WhatsApp, or we just connect through email. And then I usually will ask them, like, what is your idea? What do you want for your shoot? Do you have a theme or anything like that? And usually on the day, I don't know, but it's kind of something natural that just go with the flow.
Mm.
When they come in, I'll just like try to like understand and get to know them, ask questions, but not like specifically deep questions, just like let the conversation flow. Um, and then, yeah, and like Laetitia said, then later on, I see like in the beginning, they will always be like a little bit shy and like kind of not like into it. Like, and then
Mm.
later you will see like it's kind of like a flower that just like
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah, like
And
that.
then, yeah. So it's kind of like it's a kind of a connection that you build up, and I don't know, I think it's something that we as photographers just have, like kind of the
Mm.
connection with our clients. So yeah, I would say that about it. So
Wonderful answer. Thank you, Siobhan.
So for me, I have questionnaires that I do send out beforehand, just asking the client like why are they shooting. So very similar to Laetitia, just digitized because time. So why are they doing this? I ask them what is their favorite artist to listen to, and then when they do come in, I have the songs playing, and they're always like, "Oh my word, it's my favorite artist playing!" And I have like a little board where I write their name on, and before we start shooting, we just chat, just like I get to know them, just ask them how they are, and then we go through their outfits and everything. And also beforehand, I do chat to them on WhatsApp. I love voice noting. If you know me, I do voice note a lot. So I think that obviously plays into them getting to know me a bit better. And yeah, on the day, we ease into it. I usually always tell them like the first few photos we never use because they're always like, and then by the end of the shoot, my client's always like, I feel fabulous. So, and yeah, if the makeup artist is doing the makeup, then that's also a great chance for me to get to know them a bit better. And yeah, by the end of it, it's like having a best friend. So
100%, yeah. So it's what I remind my clients of and models. It is a process, so it's a point A to B process. So it's not a case where the first handful of images are going to look amazing. So
yeah.
just like playing sports, a warm-up session is required as well. And I think during which, and I think as much as possible, you need to reduce the presence of the camera itself, because I think that's the thing people are afraid of, the camera. So it's also a reason I don't like shooting on a tripod or shooting tapered or having a laptop around me, because that is an object a person can hide behind. So having that chat prior, even if the person is late, just a 10-minute chat, drinking some water, not coffee because that may stain the teeth. But yeah, just a quick chat up session just to get to know the client, just to put the person at ease. This is a technique that has worked out quite successfully for me. So for the first, 10, 15 minutes, I will ask a person to act like a zombie or a pirate or a superhero or a James Bond villain. And it's just a goofy thing that's just going to happen. And obviously, if I ask you to act like a zombie, I'm going to act like a zombie myself as well. So I'm definitely going to lead by example. So that's definitely an icebreaker. You can see the comments here on the side, Rita saying the same thing, acting like a clown and being super goofy. Humor does help people to relax. I think life does expect us to have this stoic, determined, professional mask on for the whole time. And I think it is psychology 101. Once you can remove that mask, you get the true person, the essence of a person. So it is about creating a comfortable environment, even if it does require acting like a goofball and a clown beforehand, but also building that rapport with your client beforehand. So agree with all of you saying, establish communication beforehand, ask a bunch of questions pertaining to their life. A good question to ask is, how would your friends and family describe you, and what do you think people get wrong about you, as a follow-up question? And just to use all of those little details just to kind of strategize around the shoot as well.
I like that.
It's a lot to take in, but I think just in short, it is a process. So don't expect magic to happen straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Get to know the person, connect a bit,
Yeah.
have some interesting conversations, jump into the interest, talk about your cats, talk about your dogs, talk about your children, etc. The first 5 to 10 minutes are going to be the more difficult ones, and yes, it will require a bit of warm-up session just to get things flowing.
I'm going to just jump in there quickly. I think also the more you do it, so if you are still starting out, your first few clients, you don't really know how to interact with them. But I think the longer that you do photography, the more people that you work with, it kind of just comes naturally. Like for me now, I'm so relaxed. In the beginning, I was so nervous working with all these new people, and they have no idea who I am. I don't know who they are. But now, yeah, it's like second nature. It's something clicks on the day.
Absolutely. If I
I
could
feel
just
like
quickly clarify, when I said I want people to act like zombies and pirates and whatnot, that's not the photo I'm interested in. I'm interested
I
in
hope not.
in-between moments. So when it comes to zombie, pirate, superhero, they may act the part, but normally you start laughing to yourself, you start giggling to yourself. That's the photo I want. So have your finger ready on the button, click, 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 click. So when the people are smiling and laughing to themselves, when they drop that mask of stoicism or serious nature, etc. So it's also a case of keeping the finger on a shutter ready just to capture those in between moments as well. All right, so I think to follow on with that, in terms of
Just talking about
natural poses and natural expressions.
clients. Sorry, Conrad, I
Let's
was
pull
just
that comment
laughing.
up, but we need to draw the line of being too nice and they become not. Yeah, it's always a fine line, a perfect balance between two extremes.
Very true.
Okay, so let's look at some of the comments here. So, blah, 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 blah. To remind the client to breathe and to explain to them how it might look if they don't, tends to relax them as well. Very good. Insight there. Saving your client's number for you to be able to see WhatsApp statuses also help to get to warm up a future clients as well. Interact if you need to, like a lost or a loved one. Like that.
Interesting.
All right. So as a reminder, everybody out there watching YouTube and Facebook land, do drop your questions and your comments. So they will display in a little box here so we can see what everybody is saying. So if we see some interesting comments, we'll definitely touch on them, but definitely ask your questions as well. And we'll tackle the questions one by one as we prod along. So we kind of talked about getting a person comfortable, but I want to talk about posing. So there is the idea of forcing a pose where a person looks very rigid and very frozen, whereas creating natural poses, a bit of fluidity, a bit of a natural action, natural movements. How do you go about posing a person where a person looks natural and authentic? So Laetitia, again, starting with you.
You know what, Conrad, for me during a session, it's usually a combination. So like you talk about rigid portraits or movement. I love movement. It brings out the playfulness in the client, and you do see, and getting them to laugh. And but when it comes to posing, for me personally, preparation is very important. So, and that also helps if I know the client. I know how tall they are. I know their body type, so I can prepare poses. I know what they'll be wearing. So that's actually what I do. I do kind of beforehand prepare those rigid poses, as you say. Um, but so yeah, so with posing, I think I always do a combination of the portrait and the floof. So as soon as they're standing, if they have a beautiful dress, I'll get them to ask. There's always music playing. I do the same to when I ask them, "Who do you enjoy listening to?" And we put it on, and then they really get into it. And then I would say to them, just flow with the music, hold your dress and just flow with the music. And then they really get into it, and they just and that's kind of where you get those fun natural posing. But yeah, they also love the planned posing, because one of the things I found that people are very nervous about is they think they need to be a natural poser. And unless you are a professional model that does it for a living, no one is a natural poser, you know. Um, so they actually love the fact that I can tell them exactly what to do. And I tell them, I pose you down to your pinky. I will tell you, relax that pinky, you know. So and it actually it gives them a sense of comfort that I'm actually telling them exactly how
Yes.
they should do to really accentuate all the right angles, you know. So yeah, for me, preparation, just kind of have a mood board for yourself, and just kind of have an idea of how you want these portraits to look, and yeah, plan your poses according to it's going to be the most flattering for the client so that they
Yes.
feel amazing, you know. So,
100%. Les-Lee, board is yours.
Okay, so yeah, what I usually do is, as clients send ideas and stuff to me, they will usually tell me that, okay, I like this pose, or I have ideas on my phone, but I keep in mind, in my own mind, that, okay, you can pose. I will tell them, okay, you can pose it how you feel comfortable. Just be yourself and kind of exposing yourself to the picture and the camera. And then I'll ask them afterwards, okay, do you feel like, is this the way you want to pose, or do you feel comfortable in the way? What side is your best side? And then I'll guide them through. I will show them like, okay, this doesn't. I will tell them this doesn't look right for me. It's kind of like, I think you should rather stand like this or this. So I think the poses, when it comes to poses, you have to kind of, as a photographer, you have to have in mind as well, kind of ideas of how the person should be in a posing position. So yeah, I don't think, like for me, I would normally tell people, because I want people to feel comfortable, the subject to feel comfortable, and not like, I don't want to tell them to do something and then they're like, okay, I don't, in their minds, they're like, I don't feel comfortable doing it. So like when it comes to pose, I will guide them, but not like to a point where they feel uncomfortable doing it. So yeah.
Wonderful. Siobhan.
So I'm quite similar with Laetitia. I have prepared poses in my mind usually. And again, it just depends on the clients. So obviously, some clients just have a knack for posing. It's in them and they flaunt it. But I do definitely, I will mirror their pose. And then I did see a comment saying ask permission to adjust. So I obviously ask for permission as well, just like, can I move this? Can I do that? And yeah, I think also just having some go-to poses as a photographer, so you never hit a blank, is always important. Like you should always have at least like 10. I don't know. I have like standing ones, sitting ones, by the wall. So yeah, that's pretty much how I tackle posing. A bit of mixture of everyone's.
So in terms of posing, I think it was Gary Oldman, very popular, talented actor, who said he doesn't like being told what to do. So what he wants is a starting point and an end point, and his body, his mind will fill in the blanks in between. And I think that helps in terms of posing as well. So just asking your person, client, model, whatever, just to do something, be it an action or a sequence of actions, just a start point and an end point, and muscle memory will take over. We'll fill in the blanks in between. Thereafter, I'll do the micro adjustments, adjust the pinky, adjust the neck, adjust the angle a little bit. But once a person gets into an action, even if it is as simple as just taking a step towards the camera or by looking down or looking up, just ask a person to do that over and over and over and over again. And from there, just do a little micro adjustments as well. So I think with a person doing an action, all of their body, muscles, limbs, etc., will just fall into the right places by second nature. So I've found that molding a person like clay from the start, put your shoulder here, look in left here, adjust your hips here in this direction, etc. It's as if their feet get cemented on the ground and they just lose balance and fall over themselves. So again, I say, ask a person to do something and all of the puzzle pieces will just fall into place. But from there, you can ask a person to raise the chin to the main light if you need to make small adjustments. Interesting point Les-Lee made as well by being very observant. So look at your photos. assess everything, see what should be there, what isn't there, make your adjustments. As I said over and over again, it is a process. So process as well. So don't force things to be as what you think they should be from straight off the bat. So just allow things to flow. But in terms of posing, just allow a person just to get into a rhythm as well. So first 10 to 15 minutes, things may not work out exactly as what you may want to, but yeah, it's a warm up. And again, I say, just let the person do something that's very helpful.
It's very important what you said there about micro adjustments. Those micro adjustments can make or break a portrait. I've seen so many portraits that would have been perfect if they were that little micro adjustment would just have been made. Like maybe the hand looks a bit awkward, or they tuck their feet in too deep, so now it looks, looks a little off. So I think that's a good tip for portrait photographers starting out is the look at your entire composition. Lighting is perfect, face looks good, everything, but just like look at the whole picture and make sure you're not going to lose a really beautiful portrait because you didn't tell them to just arch their back a little bit, or so yeah.
Now, so there's a point Annie Livovich brought up in regards to the amount of gear that you need to use. So don't take 5 lenses, don't take 100 different backdrops, don't take 200 different light stands, don't overburden yourself with the amount of equipment that you are going to use. So I think that kind of relates to poses as well. So if I'm not going to use 100 different backdrops, why do I want to do 100 different poses? So I think it was Siobhan who said about 10 poses, like that should be your foundation, and from there kind of work upwards. So don't force. Professional models can do your 100, 2,000 different poses on command. But as far as your average Joe type of person is concerned, just have 10 ideas in mind and work from there. So don't expect the person to pull out all the funky moves within a short period of time. Just allow the process to happen. Just have 5 or 10 poses in mind. Just like you wouldn't have 100 lenses on a day. Don't think that you need 100 poses. And it's all bespoke to the client as well, so don't do the same trick with everyone. This is where the story, the character, everything else will need to blend in as well.
I mean, 3 identical poses can look very different just because the expression is different, the head is slightly tilted, but the body is staying the same, And then, because I always have to tell my clients, so the reason I'm showing you these 5 that look almost exactly the same is because I love these 2, but you might like that expression on your face, So, so that's it's like Siobhan said, you've got the 10 poses, but from those 10 poses, so many other portraits can kind of come out of that.
So it's called the UFA, the Universal Flattering Angle. So that is pointing your body 45 degrees to other end. So my studio, I have reference points. So that would be the corners of the room. So look in this corner, look in that corner, look at the bottom corner, look at the bottom corner. And I think that will create a 45-degree angle, more or less. So I think this is also important. I don't know, maybe a neuroscientist can help me out here. But I think that what we hear lags behind what we see. So when it comes to posing a person, mimicry helps a lot. And also pointing in a direction where they need to look helps a lot. So if I had to say, look at my left hand, all of you are looking at my right hand. So this is what I mean by visual, what you see just kind of lags behind, what you hear just lags behind what you see. So mimicry, guiding the model, showing them what to do, and also pointing and having this reference in your studio for them to point their body or their eyes, etc. at helps a lot better as opposed to saying, I want you to look exactly 42.6 degrees to your right. And sometimes I think this happens, I don't know if this happens to you, but when you tell a person to look left, they think, is it your left or my left? I don't know which one to look at.
Sometimes
when you ask a person, yes, they'll throw themselves completely to the west or throw themselves completely to the east, but you just want that small adjustment. So again, I say it's just all about showing the client what to do. If they need to look at something, just point in that direction. It helps a lot better than using words. Just
absolutely.
do the body.
I've also found that being on their level, If they're standing, I'm standing. If they're sitting, I'm sitting, so that I can show them exactly what I want them to do.
Yeah.
If I've got them low down, then I'm low down on the floor. So it's really just like, it's really a mirror situation the whole time. They're comfortable because I'm not looking down on them unless the pose requires it. But that on the same level mirroring, I think that also gives them a sense of just easing a little bit more.
Yeah. So I think there are some, like a dozen few soft rules when it comes to portrait posing as well. For example, you don't want too many whites in the eyes, so a person can't look too far in one direction, because you want the full iris, you want the person to make eye contact or at least look 45 degrees in one direction. If you have too many whites in the eyes, then it may look a bit like a zombie effect. And also when a nose extends beyond the face line, you also don't want that, because it will make the nose look bigger. So again, that UFA thing I spoke about, the universal flattering angle, 45 degrees, that normally works quite well in terms of, if you want a person to look in whichever direction or move the body in whichever direction. It's important to remind your client or model not to exaggerate, just subtle movements. All right, so lighting. We touched on storytelling a little bit. So the quality of light that you want to use. So the quality of light refers to the hard or soft nature of light. So that will bring us to the ballpark of soft boxes and umbrellas and beauty dishes and barn doors and snoots, etc. But how do you go about selecting the right light for your subject? Like, what is your thought processes there, Laetitia?
You know what? I actually, for me, it's always the angle of light and how I manipulate it. I always use the same light and the same settings. Actually, I just angle it differently, use a different light shaper, and manipulate it to make it do what I want it to do. So choosing lighting, but that kind of comes from the pre designing of kind of having, like Siobhan also said, having the pictures kind of almost already in my head, knowing what I want to create. So then I choose my lighting really based on what I want the portrait to look like. I like trying new things, but I don't try new things on a client. I always try it beforehand. But yeah, so like for me, Conrad, from our last conversation, my go-to light shaper is a beauty dish. I almost shoot everything with a beauty dish. And then I use a reflector or a backlight if I want to change up a few things. And then I have the CameraStuff 160 umbrella. The Godox umbrella. That is when I want to have like a more wraparound, soft kind of effect. It's really just what I think will suit this client and the look that I want to create. That's kind of how I choose my lighting.
I just want to note that Rita is taking over the conversation here. We'll have to invite Rita along next time. Just drop me a DM next time, Rita. We'll definitely bring you on board. This is a good point, asking if they have epilepsy beforehand. That's a good point if you're going to take photos like Rambo uses a machine gun. The person does have epilepsy. I think that's a good question to get out of the way as well. Lighting depends on the session and the mood of the session as well. So I have a lot to say about that topic, but giving the microphone to Les-Lee first. What do you have to say about choosing the right type of light for the subject?
Yeah, normally I just go with my feeling.
Good.
Yeah, I
Intuition,
don't.
gut feel is a good approach.
I usually just go with my feeling. You have to have a picture in your mind of what you want, but sometimes it doesn't always come out the way you pictured it in your mind. But yeah, it's kind of important to have something in mind that you want to create the picture. So yeah, what I usually do is I like to use one light. I only use one strobe. I don't use I have like 3 strobes here, but I don't use all of them. Because I like for me, I like dark and deep pictures. So it depends obviously on the subject and what you want out of the picture. But yeah, I think one of my favorite soft boxes, I think it's the Godox P90H. I use that softbox almost for every shoot I do. But yeah, it normally depends on the mood of the like Luca said. Also, it depends on the mood of the session, and also on the picture you want and the mood you want out of the picture. So yeah, that's about it. I think.
All right, and passing the microphone to your right, your physical right, Siobhan.
So for me, it will depend on obviously the client's inspiration. If they want to do more high fashion, then we're going to do more hard light. But if they don't really have inspiration, they usually go with like my standard look, which is quite contrasty, quite dark, quite like Les-Lee's probably. So yeah, I have my standard setup that I always use, and then if I'm feeling adventurous on the day, then I'll be like, I want to quickly try something. I don't know if it's going to work though. Would you be willing to give it a go? And most people are like, sure. They like, I'll do more. So yeah, but my standard would probably be the Godox. What is it? The Octobox, the 90 centimeter Octobox. That's my baby. Everything is shot with that, or it's just hard light. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
So I think the thing that leads me into selecting a quality of light would be the personality. So this is where connect the dots make a bit of sense. So if it is a soft personality, I'll use soft light. If it is a hard personality, a person who's a bit rough around the edges, not just physically, but personality-wise as well, I'll use a bit of hard light as well. So this is that song, the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone's connected to the knee bone. So everything just needs to flow from the quality of light. Well, should I say it starts with character, and then everything else flows from thereafter. And quality of light is just one of the joints there. So if the person, just to reiterate, if there's a soft personality, I'll use soft lighting, I'll get the big softbox out. If it is a harder personality, I would typically lean more towards the hard light. So this is where I'll pull out the beauty dish with a grid on, maybe a snoot as well. So your deep, dark, shadowy looks for harder personalities as well. So if you have a professional model, they can pull out all of these looks for you. So it's very convenient if that person can go from different personality from the next personality. But if it's your average Joe person, what we spoke about beforehand, just establishing that connection, getting to know the client beforehand, having that session prior, so that you can just gauge a bit, okay, this is the person's personality. And from there, you can add in all of the externalities, such as the quality of light and the equipment that you need to use. So it's incredibly subjective. It's all mood dependent and many things dependent, but I think it all stems from personality. Now, I think from there, wardrobe as well. So if it is soft light, soft personality, the outfit needs to be quote unquote soft as well. If you think of a James Bond type of character with a very sharp tuxedo, I'll use hard light with that as well. So this is where things need to blend in as well. And color, when I think of soft light, it would be the pastel colors. When it comes to hard light, it would be the deep, dark, bold colors as well. So as I said, it's like that song where one thing just flows into the next. Once you have character, and I think character is paramount, it is first and foremost, it extends beyond everything. From there, you can add your puzzle pieces on top of that.
That's very true.
All right, so I think we spoke a bit about creating happy vibes. So how to get a person to laugh, how to make a person smile. But let's say the theme is more so melancholy. Like how do you lower the tone of a photo shoot? Like if you want to capture something a bit more sullen, maybe the theme is more so on the opposite of happy. Let me just define it as such. So how do you bring the tone down in terms of capturing the opposite of happy photos, if that is the required theme that you're going for?
Am I starting again? Okay. I'm trying, as you're talking, I'm trying like the opposite of happy. I don't think I've ever asked a client to be the opposite of happy. I would rather say serene would be probably more my go-to than, you know,
I was
melancholy.
struggling to find a word. I was struggling to find like a proper word. So I was just like, let's put it all in the same basket and just say the opposite of happy.
Melancholy.
Melancholy, I think would be a nice one, yes.
Yeah, I think, the serenity look is, I would kind of take them somewhere, like, usually from our conversations, I would gauge what makes their heart smile, so, I would mention something, or I would ask a question if they have a very special relationship with their daughter or something, then I would start speaking about the daughter and asking questions, and they would go into that kind of serene look. I had a client once that really wanted to pay homage to her mom that had passed, with the shoot that she did for herself. And we had this kind of gentle conversation about her mom during her makeup and everything, and it kind of just flowed into that, her portraits, kind of, because it was almost like she was thinking about her mom the entire time. So I think just creating the emotion, or bringing out the emotion of the moment, and just kind of being in the moment with the client and capturing it like that.
100%. I love that. Les-Lee, mic to you.
That's a difficult one to tell a client not to smile. Yeah, usually when I want the picture to be like you say, not happy, I don't know how to say the word not to be happy, but um yeah, I would usually just kind of be like, because they are laughing at the moment and they're like smiling, and then I will just be just lose. I will just tell them just lose the smile, but then they just like go like down. Like I just tell them to think about something that's very very sad, because you cannot tell a person not to be like happy, but in the same while you want the picture to kind of look more of given emotion. So yeah, it's, how can I explain this? I would say that's what I usually do. I would usually just tell them to be like, just think of something that makes you like sad. Um, I don't know how to add more to that, but yeah, like Laetitia already said a lot. So yeah, I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me just find some synonyms for melancholy. So desolation, sadness, pensiveness, woe, sorrow, melancholia, unhappiness, dejection, depression, gloom, gloominess, misery. So
Yeah.
that's the going theme of what you want to capture. So now that we have better definitions for the opposite of happy, I think we can take it from there. Come on.
So, what Yolandi said, tell them to smile and relax their mouth, but smile with their eyes. I use that quite often. And I also just tell them throughout the shoot, like, feel free to smile, feel free not to smile, like, change it up, look around. And yeah, if I see that they're going a bit more in like the pensiveness direction, then, we obviously play into that. So, yeah, I think I love what Laetitia does, though. I might steal that from you.
Yeah, so
Mandy was saying, Tyra Banks, she calls it smizing.
Yeah.
Smiling with your
smizing,
eyes.
enlighten me.
Smizing, yeah.
So what is smizing? I don't know what that term is. Enlighten me.
It's smiling with your eyes. So your eyes are smiling, but your mouth is not, like Yolandi was saying.
Wonderful. All right. So in terms of that melancholy vibes, music helps. So if you want to create a happy vibe, obviously play happy music or play your favorite music as well. But if you want to go to the more sullen, gloomy side, play your appropriate music as well. And also lower your tone, speak slowly as well. If you're a bit too high pitched, if you speak too erratically, that may just throw the mood out the window as well. So obviously with the way you talk to your client, that needs to match the mood as well. And also what helps is to ask the person to not walk away, to look away, and to kind of avoid making eye contact, because typically what I find is when people make eye contact, they start smiling, they are back in the studio. So if you ask a person to pretend to be somewhere else and to have a picture in their mind, to pretend that they're with somebody or trying to experience this sad, experience that they may have had, just to create the right look, the right expression. Once it's eye contact, they're back in the studio again. And so it's back in the sterile studio. So just avoid contact, but remind your model to look at the camera just every now and then. Okay, but if it's a person looking at you the whole time, it's just very difficult for them to enter the zone, quote unquote. In terms of lighting, if I may, it is a topic that I want all photographers to get into, to study, should I say. It's that of chiaroscuro. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's an old classical painting technique. Italian word where chiaro stands for light or bright, and scuro stands for dark or gloomy. So it is the interplay between light and dark. I'm just going to pull it on screen so people can look at the spelling of it. In fact, I may just drop this in the comment section as well. So it is an old-fashioned painting technique people adopted to avoid flat images, where you have a dark background and a bright subject. In fact, what inspired the painting technique was real-world events where you have, let me just quickly just say that this is inspired from the Renaissance era. So this is many, many years ago. So it is a setting where you can imagine people sitting around a candle, where it's a very bright center and only a portion of the person's face is illuminated, and you have the entire background dark. So once you look at the image, it looks like a person is kind of pulling themselves out of a sludge of darkness. So once you have the right expression, the right mood, etc., the lighting here needs to play its part as well. So let me just pull that up on screen. Just give me a moment. Okay, I'm just going to hide the chat box for a moment. All right, so that's the spelling of it. Chiaroscuro. You can see the examples of it. So from the Renaissance era, you see exactly what I mean, where you have a dark background, very contrasty mood, where it looks like a person's kind of emerging from the shadow itself. So it's a lot of narrative, a lot of storytelling here. And just to add on to what Les-Lee pointed out, by using one light, that is the go-to. You don't want to overburden your shoot with too many lighting. That will kind of defeat the objective. But by having that light placed 45 to 60 degrees on an angle, just to create that semi-focused soft light on the person and to have the dark background, obviously. So just to stay on topic in terms of quote-unquote sad vibes only. See Anushka pointing it out, sad vibes only. Lighting plays a big part here as well. So copy and paste that at some point in your browser, your search box, and I'll just get into this topic. It's a very big topic. All of this was done to avoid flat lighting, but also to get into the story, the narrative of your subject matter.
Conrad, does this style, does it add on with the Rembrandt lighting? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is something Leonardo da Vinci, and what she pointed out, Rembrandt, what they utilized as well. So what they hated was the flat image where subject and background had similar tonality, similar color. What they wanted was that contrast, that shape and dimension to the image itself. And also, as I said, inspired by real world events where you have a bunch of people sitting around a candle. I think there was an example here somewhere. But yeah, you have that contrasty light. In any case, yeah, so you have that very contrasty light where only a sliver of the person is illuminated. And as I said, by looking at it, it is as if the person is stepping into the spotlight, stepping into the shadows, and just like that, you have a story to tell. Okay, let me put that away for a moment. Fix my boxes here. All right, so I did mention to all of you that I'm going to need to change batteries every now and then. So you can see this corner here, my battery's draining, but don't worry, I will change batteries in a moment. So when I do go blank, just know I didn't go away. I'm just running around and changing
The
batteries.
light
in the
sign is
background.
actually blocking it, so we can't see the battery is almost.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do see it. Yeah, so it's massive as I see it. It does stick out like a sore thumb. But yeah, just as a reminder, if I do go blank at some point, I will return. Don't worry. All right, so let me get into next question. How do you handle challenges pertaining to shy and hesitant clients? So on a day, you have a person that's very reserved, very recluse, very inward. How do you get a person who is very shy, introverted in the zone? Laetitia, again with you.
I think that kind of adds in again to connecting beforehand. And yes, even then you'll still that person could still feel. I mean, I've had clients that wanted to, like, they tried to talk themselves out of it the morning of, so kind of just that overwhelm. So you do have clients that this is like a really big deal. It's a really vulnerable space, and they do try and talk themselves out of this. So I think really just be very gentle with these clients, because where it would normally feel daunting for someone to be in, I mean, even for me, I do most of my portraits are self portraits. I've been in front of a photographer before, and then I'm also kind of uncomfortable, and because it's a vulnerable space. So if it's like a default setting for someone to be kind of awkward, imagine for someone that is really shy and really introverted, but this is really stepping out of their comfort zone for them. It really is about being very gentle with a client like this and really being patient and making them feel as comfortable as possible.
Les-Lee, passing the mic.
I think this add on to what we spoke about before. Yeah, it's basically making your client feel as comfortable as possible. Because not a lot of people are comfortable in front of a camera or feel like a lot of people want to do clients, want to do a photo shoot, but then they kind of come to you and like, I'm shy and I don't know how I'm going to do this. So you as the photographer have to go into that space of make them feel comfortable as possible. What I usually do is like, I would just tell them to like, you can play your music like Laetitia said, and just be like yourself. I always tell my clients, just be yourself. I'm here, but make like I'm not here. You can just be yourself and just be you in front of the camera. And I think it's just to make them feel comfortable, because I think that's about it. I don't know what to add on that topic further.
No, we'll definitely create a follow-on there. Siobhan?
So for me, music definitely is a big role with the shy clients. Them listening to their favorite music definitely opens them up. And as Yolandi also put here, affirming them, saying like, you're doing great, I love this, love that. I'm very vocal during a shoot with that stuff. And I think just chatting, putting the camera down, taking photos, then putting the camera down and just chatting. So taking breaks just to give them a break so that they can relax and they realize, oh, right, we're actually just talking, but we're also doing photos in between. So that's what I do with very shy clients.
Yeah, so normally what I tell clients is just to follow by example. So I will literally show them everything that they need to do in terms of posing. I say that as a tall man myself. If I need to get into the feminine space, I need to pull out the feminine poses myself as well.
Please
Good
demonstrate.
icebreaker, that insane as well. But just sorry, what did you say, Laetitia?
I said, please demonstrate for us your feminine space.
I will one day, yes. Yeah, I think we'll have a nice little portrait posing session as well. We will do the demonstrations.
I look forward to
do a rain check on that one. Yeah, but it is definitely to lead by example, because I think when it comes to shy introverted people, saying that as a shy introverted person myself, we do tend to copy people's energy. So on a day when you have camera in hand, create for energy, create for vibes, and people will tend to follow in your footsteps as well. So if you're going to compete in terms of shyness and introvertedness, it's just not going to work out whatsoever. So if you find yourself being shy and introverted yourself, you just need to find that space where you can create for energy, just create conversation, and having a repertoire, an archive of things that you need to lead the client into, that is incredibly helpful as well. So just allowing the person to follow your energy, to follow in your footsteps, guide them throughout the entire process. And also positive affirmation, as mentioned a couple of times here, goes a long way as well. On that topic, do you like to shoot tethered?
No.
Or do you want to show your clients photos as you go along? So do you have a big monitor in your studio where people can look at the photos one by one? Or do you find the winning shot and then you show the client? I don't know. How's your process like?
No, I've never shot tethered. I do like the reminder that Yolandi gave about affirming clients and really authentically and sincerely affirming them. I'm also quite vocal, like Siobhan. I really get excited if I really like a shot. I do a happy dance for them, and I'm like, and because the thing to remember is many ladies, especially, they don't really believe that they look beautiful. They think that's why I said it has to be authentic. Don't put on a show that's not real. So affirm them, tell them that's amazing. And yes, show them. If you see they're still not relaxing, just show them the back of the camera. Show them why you're getting so excited so that they can see that you're telling the truth. And that's usually also the moment when it hits. But no, never tethered, because I don't want them to be self-conscious. Because if there was a scene and they kind of like, and I mean, not all the shots is going to be a kill shot. It's some of them are going to look awkward, and some's going to have like eyes rolled, or so, so I mean, I feel like that would just make them more self-conscious. So yeah, no, I don't. I've never shot tethered before.
All right. I also think with shooting tethered, it's a case of even if 99% of your photos look amazing, like it's that one photo where it's an unflattering pose or an unflattering look or eyes closed or is double chin action going on. That photo is going to haunt your client for the remainder of the shoot. So I don't like to shoot tethered whatsoever, unless it's something commercial where creative director and stylist and makeup artist may want to look at the photos as you go along. And I think typically you're shooting with a professional model, and professional models have looked at themselves from a gazillion different angles before. But if it is the average Joe person, no. I'll find the good shot. So build the process, find what works, figure out what doesn't work, weed out the bad stuff. When I come to that winning shot, show the client, and it's almost instant. The faces will light up, and we'll just build their confidence from there.
Absolutely.
So be selective what you show the client. So having things on a big monitor, I find personally that hasn't worked in my favor at all. So I don't know if you have anything to add on, either Leslie or Siobhan.
No. I agreed with Laetitia with the and you, Conrad, with everything. So 100%.
All right. So I asked all of you to send me a portrait, a favorite portrait that you have taken, and I want to give you an X amount of time, whatever amount of time you're comfortable with, just to explain the shot, just in terms of what inspired you, what the backstory may have been. So again, just kind of touching into the topic of what defines a good portrait. I think your own personal interpretation here can now be in full swing looking at our images. So it's going to be Leslie first.
Wow.
Okay, so yeah, this was taken not in my studio, but yeah, it's a kind of a interesting story because I didn't have the idea of shooting this anyhow, but it was this year Feb I did the shoot for a designer, and we were supposed to shoot at the art gallery, and we didn't get the art gallery, so we find this kind of like a guest house, and they had this wall, and this wall really it kind of took my attention. So the day of the shoot, I just saw this wall there with the flowers, and I kind of had this one piece of, it was kind of like, not, I would say, a rose kind of thing, but it was like flower petal thing. It was standing in front, so I just took the thing, the plant, and just kind of squeezed it in front of the subject, like the model, and I placed my camera like kind of like almost like it looks like she's in the jungle kind of vibe. And then the light, I just used one light. Also the Godox that the what is that, the PH90, yeah. And yeah, it was about the one light, and then yeah, it was just like a fashion shoot. It was actually for a fashion shoot, so that I didn't edit so much in the picture, so it was just natural as it looks right there.
There's a couple of things I want to point out, and Siobhan and Laetitia are more than welcome to also add a couple of 5 cents here as well. But what I'm looking at here, what immediately gets me excited would be the color contrast, the reds against the green. So it just creates an immediate grab your attention, that with red sticking out. And also what you mentioned about the singular light source. I've made a habit out of using 4 or 5 lights, RGB lighting gels and whatnot, but I think people, what resonates with them would be the single light source images, because that does flow into our intuition. It is what we're used to seeing as well. And with this particular shoot, obviously you want to create a bit of a jungle setting, and having multiple light sources would have just seemed a bit silly and out of place. So you made a very, very good move here with a single light source to the side as well. And just the foliage, I see some leaves pointing towards the subject matter as well, the person. So just providing the leading lines. So I think all around you did an amazing job here. And also the red lips in combo with that red jacket. Chef's kiss.
I absolutely love this shot, Les-Lee. I love the colors. It's just, and it's kind of the mystery, It's like, it's almost like she knows she's being watched, and she looks amazing.
Yeah, it almost looks like she's kind of like coming out of, like, I don't know how to explain this. She's coming out of the kind of the bushes inside, and she's like just there.
Beautiful. I love it. Love.
Gorgeous. I love that you used a single light source. I think that's so interesting. It's beautiful.
So with a single light source placed to the side, obviously you can have a dominance of shadows on one end. And you can just think of a yin-yang symbol. So already you're expressing duality and contrast here, and that just instantly creates narrative and story as well. So it's a good way of thinking about light and shadows as well. Just think of the yin-yang symbol in front of you. So having that duality, having those two opposites, and obviously playing around with the angle of the light as well. It just creates narrative and storytelling instantly. So thank you so much for that, Les-Lee. So let's see who's next. Drum roll. And it is Siobhan.
I love that.
So this is one of my repeat clients. She's a bit more of a model, so it's always fun working with her. So in winter, the sun creates these cool shadows on my studio backdrops. And in the beginning, I was always so afraid of them. I'm like, oh, they're ruining my backdrops. But now I've just learned to embrace them. So with this, I believe it's a 2-light setup. I think I have obviously the main light, which would be my Godox in I think it was the 90 centimeter octobox, and then also on the side, the other one. And I had her boyfriend pulling the fabric on the one side, and I think I clipped it to the top of the backdrop on this one. But for me, it was the retouching on this one. I spent a very long time retouching this, specifically the hairline. So something interesting to note on it is I used AI on the hairline, and it worked so well. I was so impressed because I was retouching it and it just wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to. And so I chucked it in with AI and it just came out so beautiful. And I love it. I love like the angle of her body and the skin. Oh, I love it so much. It's one of my favorite shots for sure.
No, something I wanted to point it out immediately was just the angularity of the pose as well, and also the natural placement of the hands, which is something people do struggle with. It's, what do I do with my hands? It's a meme out
Yeah.
there. So I don't know if you asked the person to like caress their side of the body up and down,
Yeah,
or was it a
so
static pose? Because I think that
I
kind of
always
ties into what we talked about earlier about just asking the person to do something over and over again. Just helps
no,
to
so
get the muscles in place.
initially her hands were quite close in, and I obviously wanted to accentuate her curves. So I asked her to just pull the left hand back just a little bit so we get that beautiful curve. And yeah, obviously the right hand, if it was in front of the fabric, it would have looked a bit weird. So yeah, I think the pose came out so well. I was very happy with it, and just her looking off as well. It's, as you said, in your studio where you have specific locations to look at in your studio. I have the same. It's one of my hundreds of plants in the one corner.
That's a good one.
If you've seen the behind the scenes, you know I've got lots of plants.
I love your studio, by the way, Siobhan. It's beautiful. I've actually snuck onto your website because I just wanted to see the studio tour.
Thank you.
And I love the shadows. I absolutely
Yeah,
love
I do love the shadows too. That looks nice. I really like the shadows.
Thank you. I wish it was like that year round.
Portrait. Really beautiful.
Thank
That's an
you.
interesting
And
story
yes,
about
AI
bracing.
hairline fix for the win.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
I do love the embracing of the shadow. So you mentioned it was something that you were annoyed with initially, but I think that's something beautiful about storytelling is that we do embrace the journey itself and what's there, and to appreciate what's there instead of fighting against the grain the whole time. And I think that's just a beautiful example of it. Yes, I've had that in your studio the whole time, and now it was just a case of, okay, let me just try it out for once, and it's created this very dynamic, very beautiful backdrop. So instead of using the expensive optical snoots, you got the shadow going on naturally. Love it.
Kind of makes me think of a bottle of perfume. I don't know. There's just
Ooh, I like that. Maybe I'll try to sell it off.
maybe they can use it for like a perfume ad or something.
It would be great.
All right. So who's next? Well, obviously, it's going to be Laetitia. Floor is yours.
Beautiful.
So as you talk, I'm going to try and find all of your links to drop in the comment section so that people can follow you. So if it looks like I'm busy, it is because I am busy trying to find the links. But Laetitia, the floor is yours.
Okay. Before I get started, I just wanted to answer Yolandi's comment about doing your own shoot. I actually did the same thing, Yolandi, and that is really where I got it, because I did kind of push myself out of my own comfort zone, and it does give you an idea of what it feels like to do poses that might not be something that you would normally feel comfortable doing, but just kind of, it's still beautiful, but it's out of your comfort zone. So okay, so this is one of my favorite portraits, just because I tried something different with the lighting. So yes, I'm also a one light wonder. I do love one light setups. I very rarely I would use just a speed light for some backlight if it's needed. But I do the one light thing as well. But what I did differently here is the 90 centimeter octabox, not beauty dish, is above her behind the backdrop. So it's behind the backdrop, and only half of the octa is tilted over the backdrop, so shining down on the back. And then I had a reflector in front of her to bounce the light to light up her face. So so this was something different from what I usually shot. I did do a lot of my normal, because usually clients would want that very specific beauty dish shots that I do. But I really love that. So that is how I lit this. she came to me for her 40th birthday, and also a lot of just kind of self-reflection on her own life story and everything. And so this would typically be that serene look that we were talking about earlier, Conrad, where she was really just in the moment, just kind of reflecting on everything. And yeah, I think I find it can be challenging to make a portrait connecting, make it feel connecting when the person is not looking at the camera. So that's kind of where you have to. There has to be an emotion there so that it can kind of not look too posed, you know. But yeah, that was kind of the story. And yeah, yeah, it was early in the year that I had. No, it was December. Yeah, she was a December client. But yeah, I loved the lighting and how it came out. I had tested this lighting on my daughter before I did it on the client, and it was obviously very different. But I was very excited to try it, and I loved how it came out.
Okay, wonderful. If I may ask, Leslie and Siobhan, can you take over here just for a minute or two while I change batteries? Because I am on 1% here.
No worries. I love the styling and the red lip and the hair, and I love the light coming from behind. I think it's something very interesting. Do you have your backdrops up on a wall or not? I'm assuming not.
Well, I actually do.
Okay.
I have two backdrops that is mounted, and
Mhm.
then I have a black corner where I
Mm.
shoot all my black backgrounds. But this is actually just like a 1.5 meter little portable one. So I do have a light stand for when I want to do something different. So yeah, so that's obviously the only way this can work is if it's actually something that I moved into the middle of the studio to fit the light in the back of it.
Mm. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, it gives like a princess queen vibe, the
Yeah.
picture.
This is
The light
actually one of
shining.
my studio dresses. So it's an old vintage piece of mine, a velvet ball gown that I wore for a for a like a I think it was my final year dine at university or something. So it's vintage. And yeah, when she showed up with that hair, I was just in love because it looked so beautiful. She looked like a Nubian queen for me, you know.
Yeah, it gives like with the gold and the red lip, the
Hmm,
queen
really,
vibe. Yeah,
she looked so amazing.
it's a nice, very nice picture, Laetitia.
Thanks, Leslie.
I really like it.
Yeah, hello again, back. Now, so I think we spoke about using one light or using two lights. I think here's a good demonstration as to when to use an extra light, when it's absolutely necessary. So just to create that separation between subject and background. So by the looks of things, you had a very dark background. So without using that separation light, what I see is the hair light, the separation light along the right side of the left-hand side of the body, just to separate the subject. So in a very subtle way against the backdrop. So normally people can overburden, overlight a subject, but here's a very, very good example, a good demonstration of when and why to use extra lighting. So just to add a splash of light on the side, just to serve as that separation, just to add a bit of depth and dimension to the overall image.
And
Very well
especially
done,
if the
Laetitia.
subject is wearing, thanks so much, Conrad. Especially if the subject is wearing black as well. If you
Yes.
don't do the separation, then what they're wearing is going to disappear completely. So yeah, the separation is very important.
All right, so it's my turn. So obviously I'm going to pick my fiance, Shay.
Oh, beautiful.
That's a nice picture. I like
Thank
that.
you. So I think we touched on earlier a couple of questions that you can ask your client. How would the outside world, how would your friends and family describe you? And what do you think people get wrong about you? Now, Shay is a very lovey-dovey person, very warm, very helpful. It is a love language of hers to be of service. But I think people misinterpret that as being dominant or wanting to take over, which is not the case by any stretch of the imagination. So with Shay, I wanted to get that misinterpretation and I wanted to throw it out the window. So I wanted to get into the big smile, the warmness of the overall image as well. And I think leading into that, also good advice when it comes to portrait photography would be your own interpretation of subject as well. And there's also an unkind way of talking about people, referring to them as subjects. So I'm just going to say person here. So obviously with us being in love, lovey-dovey, I wanted to show her off as I see her through my eyes. So also just to get all of the misinterpretations about her just out of the way, and just to show her what an amazing person she is, lovey-dovey, what she represents to me. So in terms of portrait photography, your interpretation, how you see the client, wanting to celebrate the client, the person, model, person, is very, very important. So as I started off this chat with, talking about Annie Leiboviz's quote, needing to fall in love with the subject, you want to grab the subject like Rafiki holding up Simba the lion. Like you want to brag with this person. Like you want to have this person's best interest in mind. Approach everything with good faith and interpretations, because this person is very, very important to you. And obviously, we're in a relationship, but when it comes to clients and models and whatnot, this person is very important to you, and you need to see them and reveal them to the world through your eyes.
It's a beautiful portrait. I love the tight crop because it kind of puts the emphasis on the softness in her face, and yeah, I definitely see what you wanted to portray.
I love the catchlight as well.
Yeah, so this was
And the gold in the background. That's also, I love that.
So this was just a ring light, a chippy ring light.
Very
So I
cool.
experimented with an old vintage lens. It's a 51.4. It's from the World War II era. So overall, this was a very cheap setup in terms of lighting and gear used. So old lens, vintage lens, cheap ring light, but gold thing that you see in the background, that was an Edison globe.
Okay.
And it was a reflection of a CD I held just underneath the lens itself. So it caught that reflection too.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
what I
good.
wanted to convey here was just the overall softness and the warmness, no cold colors whatsoever. And obviously the red lipstick here just adds the frosting on the cake.
But it's a bit of a cheat because you're already in love with this person.
So it's a good convenience, but I think it is great practicing on people that are close and familiar to you. It's often the case with people that I know that's the best shots that I do get, but it's good practice all round.
Excellent. I'm just teasing.
No. So it's also like a comedian that has to tell the same jokes over and over and over again, but because it's the same, a different audience, it's a different reaction the whole time. So even if it feels like you're doing the same things over and over and again, using the same strategies, the audience will be fresh. So don't put too much pressure on yourself in terms of performing every day. Just use the same recipes, things that you're familiar with, and learn in the process. Be very proactive at learning new things as well. All right, so let's get that out of the way. Fix my boxes here. Blah, 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 blah. So I think we've come to the end of our chat. It's been a wonderful hour and a half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find questions from the audience. If people are still watching, we still have a good audience going. If you have any questions to ask, now's your time to drop them in the comment section. So get busy on a keyboard, on a typepad, drop your questions, and we'll answer them one by one.
And just a shout out to everyone that stayed for an hour and a half listening to us.
Yeah, it went very, very quickly.
Thank you, everyone.
So if I may ask, there's always the question that I end up with. In terms of portrait photography, what advice would you give new photographers out there? So let's start off with Laetitia again.
Honestly, just hone your skill. You know, it's easier to apply all the other stuff when you've got the elements down. You know, when you understand your camera, you understand what it can do, you understand lighting, you understand the exposure triangle really well, and you know how to manipulate it, so when you really practice this as much as you can, then you can focus on the person you're photographing, because you know what you're doing already from a technical point of view. So I would really, if you're starting out, like you said, Conrad, practice on people you know so that you're comfortable, so you can kind of practice, play around, and hone your skill there. And it also helps you to kind of apply that personal touch as well.
All right, so our orientation changed a little bit. So, Siobhan, you're next in line.
Yeah, I think definitely, obviously, as Laetitia said, to hone in your skills, practice on people that you know. Practice really does make perfect. So the more and more that you shoot, the more comfortable you'll get. And it's not about the gear. It's obviously it does play a role, but it's not the most important factor. I think honing in on your communication skills with your clients is probably the most beneficial out of everything. So yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, so looks like I'm next. So, advice what I give new people is to don't be afraid or shy of your own voice. So, when it comes to art in itself, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Everything is subjective, but your point of view does matter. What you want to tell the world, what you want to show the world, what you want to convey in terms of storytelling, narrative, character, your interpretation matters a great deal, and you need to get that out into the world. So don't be afraid of saying something. Don't be afraid of putting your work out there. Don't necessarily follow the trends or copy what other people are doing, because now you're following someone else's voice. What you need is that uniqueness, because you are unique, you are special, and you need to find that within the space, and you need to put it out there in the world. So that to me is art in a nutshell. It is the opinions, it is the expressions, it is the views of a huge amount of people in the same cauldron, and with that, we can move forward. So by bouncing ideas off one another, by expressing ourselves, we can create a space. It's all a bit chaotic at first, obviously, but by not shying away from your personal opinions and your voice, that is the way to move forward collaboratively and together as artists moving forward.
Absolutely.
Les-Lee.
Yeah, I would add on all of you. Yeah, the thing is with artists nowadays is a lot. I see a lot of young people. They kind of intend to look at what other artists do, like Conrad said. Like they want to copy someone else, or they look at someone else's work and say, "Okay, mine doesn't look like that, so I'm not good enough." Well, the thing is, we all are different. I think a lot of us, we are different artists. Our work doesn't look the same. And I think we as artists kind of have a way of, we have to express ourselves and not like kind of copy someone else's work. So I think for people that's starting out, I think you have to focus on yourself as artist and not try to be someone else and just be yourself. So yeah, and the rest will come, I think will come from itself. So I don't think there's much to add on that. Just to be yourself.
I just want to add on to what Les-Lee said about, it's, I remember when I was starting out, I was taught it's okay to emulate someone's work. Use it as kind of like a starting point. If you really love a specific photographer's style, then try and emulate that. And then it helps you kind of hone your skill, but eventually kind of get to a point where you find your own vision and your own style. Don't just try and copy, just kind of like, what do I want to express? So like you were saying, Conrad, it's an artistic thing. What do I want to express, and how am I gonna, if I'm still learning, I'm still starting, where do I start? If there's someone you love, a photographer's work that you love, then try and emulate that. Don't copy it. Just try and kind of recreate just for practice, just to kind of help you find your own style. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know about the young photographers starting out, but I mean, there's so many new things out there. Um, so yeah, I think just kind of find your voice and never stop learning. Leslie said, you look at someone and you think, um, I'm not as good as them, that's why I'm not good enough. I still have moments like that where I'm like, that is amazing. I can't do that. I can't do that. So I think it's also just kind of thinking it's okay if you can't do that. What can you do? What is your thing? So yeah.
100%. Thank you so much for your answers. I think we're going to tackle some questions from our audience. So we have a couple here. From Yolandi, what is your go-to portrait lens? So again, Laetitia, this way around.
Okay, so in studio I use 24-105 f2.8. I'm a Canon shooter, and I never change lenses. The main reason for this is just so that I can kind of change my focal length if I needed to. To be honest, I would love to get the 50mm 1.2 one day. So my husband is sitting over there. I'm just but yeah, so that's kind of my studio lens. I shoot f8 in studio anyway, so that doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's my go-to lens. If I'm shooting outside, I very rarely do outdoor shoots nowadays for some reason, but on the rare occasion that I do, I usually do like my zoom lenses. So I've got a 70-200 f2.8 for that one.
Siobhan.
Okay, so in studio, I'm mostly on my 50mm 1.8. I love my little nifty 50. And then I also like my Sigma 35mm, mostly for outdoors. And yeah, I'm also a Canon shooter, and that's my go-to lenses.
Sorry, I just, it's the 24-70, not the 105. Why did I say 105? 24-70. 24-105 was what I started with when I started studio shoot. Yeah, sorry. I was like, that doesn't sound right.
All right, so my go-to lens is Pentax has a bit of a weird range. It's called the limited range. I don't know why it's called limited, because we have been producing these lenses for the last 30 years, still ongoing. I don't know why it's called limited. So it's a 31mm, a 43mm, and a 77mm prime.
Interesting.
So the one I use 90% of the time is the 77, and apparently in Japan, where the lens is made, 77 is a lucky number, which is why they chose 77. So that is within range of your 85mm. So that is good for portraits in terms of compression and distortions and whatnot, in representing an accurate face, quote unquote. That is a good range of focal length, going from 50 to 85. If you use a wide angle lens, it may create distortions, a bit of a Shrek face. If you use too long, then it may compress the face a little bit too much. So a good zone would be anything between 50 and 85. And what I have with Pentax, with her quote unquote weird lenses, is for 77, and that's what I use 90% of the time. Leslie.
Okay, so I don't have a high class of lenses built yet, but the lenses I use the most is the 50mm, the 1.8, and then I also like to use the 24mm. I'm not sure what. I think it's still 1.4. I think I'm not sure now. Yeah, that's about it. And sometimes you use the kit lens because I know a lot of people have like a thing about that. A lot of photographers tell me you're not supposed to use that lens, but I love to use that lens. That's the 18, I think 18 to 50. What is that? 55, yeah, millimeter lens. Yeah, a lot of people don't like to use that lens, but I like to use it. And then I recently got the 85 millimeter as well, but the 1.81. So, but it's kind of like it depends on what you want
Yeah.
out of the picture. So, and I'm also a Canon shooter, so yeah.
All right. Next question. Do you use any presets in your edits?
Only self-created presets. so I have I have a Lightroom edit that I created. Or like, I've got my settings and I saved it as a preset. So I apply that to all my portraits as they come in. And yeah, and then I pack it into Photoshop for retouching. I do use exposure 7 sometimes. But yeah, it depends on what I want to do, what I want the portrait to look like.
100%. On top of
So
me.
I only really use my own black and white presets, but other than that, I edit as the photo comes in, and it depends on the shoot. So yeah.
Now, to say from my end, I don't use presets. So it's all specific, bespoke to the photo shoot itself. And that's where I spend most of my time adjusting the colors. So portrait retouching, fixing eyes, fixing hair, that all gets sorted in 15 minutes. But then I'll spend the next 2 to 3 hours adjusting the sliders a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Just finding that perfect color combination, in terms of exposure and different curves and whatnot. I spend way too much time just adjusting sliders a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. So presets, no, it's all bespoke from the ground up, whatever the photo shoot demands. And it's also a bit of playing around and experimenting. Sometimes I'll try a preset just to see if I'm on the right track, but normally it's where I spend most of my time is just to figure out what exactly the specific photo needs.
So you don't save any of those bespoke presets that you create? I've got like a whole row. I sometimes even name it the client's name. So
Yeah.
that if I want to use it on
Yes. So what?
clients to see if it works, I'll save it. It'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah, so if I'm doing 10 photos or 20 photos of a client, yes, I'll save it and maybe I'll refer back to it. Like I'm terrible at naming things. Like everything is untitled 7x5556. So I can't remember
When you
what the
name
thing
it,
is called
I
again.
would literally name it the client's name and what they were wearing, because
Yeah, I don't
usually
know.
the colors match to what they were wearing, and there
My
was
brain doesn't work
adjustment
like that.
made.
Like my hard drive is terrible. Like I can't find anything.
No,
Everything is named untitled, something blah, blah, blah. Like I bashed the keyboard. Okay, move on. Yeah, so if it's the same client, same photo shoot, yes, I'll save it. RAW has that feature where you can use the previous settings. So I'll just do that over and over and over again. I'm not big on Lightroom actually. So everything just goes through Camera Raw and straight into Photoshop. So
Same.
that's what I will do most of my tinkering in Camera Raw. Les-Lee.
I don't know, but I'm just gonna be honest, I don't like editing. I think for me, it's kind of, I get to a point, it's kind of the worst time for me. But yeah, I don't use presets when I do edit. I kind of go with every picture that kind of, like I say, the mood that the picture, I want to get kind of a mood into every picture. So I kind of create for every picture a mood. I know a lot of people will say like, yeah, it's time consuming to do all that, but I like to create for each image like a mood. So yeah, I don't use presets. I edit from, I will sit hours just with one photo just to get the perfect kind of mood out of it. So yeah, I don't use presets.
Wonderful. And last question from Tabo. So I think it's a very interesting one. So how do you adapt to shoots or photos where you try to get a specific shot, but something feels off or throws you out of your focus? So let's say you have a image in your mind, but something that you want to create, but it's just not gelling or something's not working out. So I think many pass through this question. How do you reorganize yourself? How do you get yourself back on track? And how do you get that image that you have in mind? Like how do you make sure that you stay in track, make sure that you get the shot?
Well, Tabo, that actually happens to me a lot. Like I've got this picture in my mind, and then it doesn't look like I thought it's going to look. And when that happens, obviously you can't have a panic session in front of the client. So I would literally just take a step back and just kind of pivot in my mind. If I need to change the backdrop, I do. If I need to adjust the lighting or change my beauty dish to an umbrella because the beauty dish was not doing what I wanted it to do, so literally, I think the best approach is to just don't panic. Because once you panic, you kind of start flailing and you don't know what, So don't panic, because just remember, tell yourself, I know what I'm doing. Say it in your mind, I know what I'm doing, not to the client. Say in your mind, I know what I'm doing. And then just take a step back. Even if you're like, I just want to change my battery, or I just take a step away.
That's the one.
And just kind of pivot in your mind. And also kind of, I think a lot of clients also know that you're a creative. So you don't want to make them lose confidence by making it look like you're unsure of yourself. So you're an artist. So then, tell them, you know what, this is actually not working for me. I would like to try something else, So then just do it with confidence is what I would say, pivot, and it will eventually get there. It will eventually get there. Eugene says, fake it till you make it.
That one. Siobhan.
I think I usually I'll try continue. So I'll either come back to it, or I'm just open with the client saying it's, as Laetitia says, like, it's not looking the way I want it to. I'm going to quickly move this, do that. You're welcome to take a break or rest. And, I think also just being honest and open, like, we are only human at the end of the day. And even, don't panic. But the client also doesn't know exactly what's going on in your head, right? So obviously, if you're showing it, then they're like, is it me? Am I the problem? So, I think don't be afraid to come back to it later on. So it gives your mind some more time to process, perhaps the light was just in the wrong position, or, you need to change your backdrop, so forth. So, and sometimes ideas don't work. So it is what it is. Don't
I've actually had an instance where eventually it got, it came to where I wanted it, but the client had changed their outfit. Then I would tell them, do you mind if we change back? Because I actually like this lighting better for that outfit.
That's great.
What I'm hearing is just relaxing my soul so much, because when I have a panic session, it's always a case of, let me just adjust the lighting, or let me just fix the battery, or do you mind doing a wardrobe change? So just to give myself like a 5-minute break or something, just to collect my thoughts again, start from scratch, get the puzzle pieces back. So it's always a case of trying to distract the client away from what is actually happening in my mind. So just to fix the lighting, or to change the battery, or ask for wardrobe change. And I love what Laetitia said. Like, can we go back to that previous wardrobe again? Things may have panicked, and so I just want to go back to that previous wardrobe again. Something I wanted to mention earlier, in terms of posing and whatnot, it just entered my mind now speaking about this. Don't point out mistakes that your model or client is making. So if you see something that's not happening as what it should, don't point out mistakes. For example, if the person has bad postures, don't say you look like a question mark, or say something like you've got some double chin action going on, let's just fix it. It's just people like to say something like, I just want to try this next pose. You might want to pull this back, pressing the torso out. So don't point out these things. It's just going to haunt their minds for the remainder of the photo shoot. It's going to be something they're very self-conscious of, and also they'll overcompensate with that. So if you tell a model, like, you've got some double chin action going on, they're going to press out their chin the whole time. So so don't point out these things. Just subtly fix it. Just say, I want to try something different. Do you mind doing X, Y, and Z instead?
Something I do with clients is I would always tell them, arch your back. I don't tell them, stand up straight. I always say, arch your back. And then while we're shooting and they start slouching again, then I just then I just do this.
Yeah.
Like, I just naturally kind of remember. So yeah, I
It is
think
something I tried once. So dare I say, I don't want to sound condescending, but it's like Pavlov's and his dogs. It's that conditioning a person. So I did tell a client every time I clap my hands or when I clap the bottom of my camera, I want you to fix your posture. So instead of me reminding you over and over again to do X, Y, and Z, it's just and then automatically.
That kind of made me feel like a puppy, Conrad.
That's why I said it's like Pavlov's dog. So I don't want to sound condescending saying that out loud. So I experimented with it once. It worked out. I may try it again in the future, but we'll see. I don't think that's going to work on everyone, but yeah. So just a little sign or a sound just to kind of kick a person's posture back into place.
And
so
I
Leslie,
think
you didn't
also
answer this
kind
question
of
in front of you.
No,
Sorry,
it's fine.
So Leslie, do you want to answer Taba's question?
Okay, can you just read the question again because my mind just went to now something else.
Well, we'll get to that as well. So how do you adapt to shoots or photos where you try to get a specific shot, but something else feels off or throws you out of focus?
Yeah, normally, yeah, like Laetitia said, I would kind of, in my mind, I know it's not looking good, or it's because, yeah, obviously, we photographers, we know that something is off. Maybe the light or the backdrop doesn't look like it should be, or it doesn't suit the outfit that the client has on. So normally, I just tell them to like, kind of like I smile at them and then I'm like, okay, I just need some time. Can you just I don't feel like this is kind of right. So can you maybe perhaps take some time off? You can have like just go chill and have maybe a drink or something like that, and then I'll fix something up inside. And normally I will just tell them, okay, this is good, thumbs up, we're good to go and stuff. So yeah, I think like the main thing Laetitia said is not to show panic in front of your clients. I think that's the most important thing. And I think as clients, they kind of, in their minds, they're like, okay, they know what they are doing. So I think if you show panic, then they will kind of, in their minds, they'll start to panic. So I think it's just to stay like calm. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful answer. Okay, everyone, I think by touching 2 hours worth of chatting, I think we can draw things to a close. This was a wonderful session. Thank you so much to everyone with your wonderful insights on bracelets and everybody watching. We built a great audience during the entire duration of our chat. So I do thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for dedicating your time, sharing your insights, sharing advice. This is definitely what our industry needs, is just to throw ideas, throw advice out there, not be afraid to share all of these personal stories, but help to develop our own personal stories as well, but also for something for people out there to resonate with out there as well. So thank you again for joining us. So I don't know if you have any closing statements, maybe.
I just want to say thank you for having us. It's
Thank
been lovely learning from Laetitia and Leslie and yourself, Conrad, and definitely have a few notes in my head that I'll be using in my work.
Wonderful.
I also just want to say thanks for having me, and I'm such a big fan of all three of you. So yeah, it's been an honor to be part of the discussion. Thanks so much, Conrad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I think with that, it's going to be a good night. So for everybody out there in Facebook, YouTube land, thank you for joining. We'll catch you next time. So from our side, Conrad on behalf of CameraStuff, Laetitia, Siobhan, and Leslie, it's going to be a goodbye. Not a goodbye, a goodbye from us. Cheerios. Until later.
Bye, everyone.
I'm saying goodbye because I need to eat dinner still. So
I also haven't eaten. And I hope my kids are not waiting. I hope they got into bed already.
Okay, well, I think with that, it's going to be a ta-ta. So ending stream now. Cheerio.